Good evening, everyone, and hello, Wendy. How are you doing?
Great, thanks. Lovely to see you.
Likewise, we spoke this morning, but we didn't see each other, did we, this morning? Or did we? It was so early to make sure everything was ready for our audience. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Yes, it's beginning to feel like Christmas.
Yeah, well, it is in your kitchen at the moment. It had to be, didn't it, for this? Does it feel a bit weird cooking a Christmas meal? 4 weeks before Christmas?
Well, I used to do stuff for magazines. I still do stuff for magazines, but they used to need the Christmas stuff back in July. So I was doing Christmas truffles and Christmas dishes in July, and by Christmas I was doing the Easter bunny recipes. So I think my still need therapy.
No, it's not true. I believe in the magic of TV and magazines. I don't believe that. What do you normally do for Christmas in terms of what you cook? Is the Clootie Dumpling and the Goose something you normally do, or is it completely different?
No, it is. It's two of our favourites. Another favourite is trifle, which I think we might be doing the next one. These two Scottish goodies are irreplaceable, and sometimes pork because I do love a honey roast ham. But we've had the goose last year as well, as I tell you all about in the programme soon, and it's really delicious. So I would recommend it. The turkey's a bit mundane in comparison.
I've actually only had goose once, and I had it at one of these massive, big kind of like corporate do's in London, and there was 1,000 covers. So they did 1,000 covers, and it arrived, and I thought this is going to be dry and it's going to taste horrible. And it was without doubt the tastiest Christmas meal I've ever had. And I was kind of part organizing it. I had to go back to the chefs and just say, I don't know how you managed to cook for 1,000 people a meal that tasted so beautiful. It was gorgeous, but it's the only time I've had it. And now I'm a vegetarian. I'll never have it again. Okay.
Hats off to those chefs. I mean, that's pretty amazing to pull that off. I've done 1,000 gingerbreads, but not 1,000 geese.
Not 1,000 covers. Okay, brilliant. Well, I really enjoyed watching this. It did put me a little bit in the festive spirit. I hope it does for everyone, and you can follow along. And all the ingredients and the instructions will be posted beneath the video as well. So I hope you enjoy this. Wendy, thanks for joining us. I know you're staying on the chat if anyone's got any questions about the recipe. And until next month when we speak about Hogmanay, see you later.
Thank you. Enjoy.
Welcome to our kitchen. We're in festive mode today, and we're going to do a Greylag goose and a Clootie dumpling, and some ideas for homemade decorations as well. So we're going to start with the Clootie dumpling. Why have a Christmas food when you can't have a real Celtic Christmas food? Because a Clootie dumpling is the thing, and it's beautiful. So I've got the dry ingredients in here. This is my granny's recipe. It's over 100 years old, and you're lucky that I have it up on Scottish Food Guide to share with you. So the trick is to make sure you have lovely plump vine fruits. It's not the moment to go for something cheap and nasty. Go for lovely succulent moist vine fruits. Brown sugar, and I've used vegetable suet in this as well. And we have ginger and we have cinnamon for spices. So the recipe is on the website. And to give it a lovely bit of juiciness and lightness, because this is not a heavy dish, we have grated apple. And it's a grated Scottish Bramley apple. And you know, if we store our apples properly, we in Scotland can have our own apples right through till March. So it's just a matter of having the right variety in the right place and storing them wisely, and then they will last all through winter. So that's the apple in as well. And I've got 3 Fife eggs and 150 mils of milk. Don't add all the milk, just in case you don't quite need it, but I usually do. So we'll pop it in and just mix it around. So it's not, you don't need a mixer, just a wooden spoon. It's very simple and very effective. What you do need is to give it 4 hours on the hob. So, but you can even make it the day before because it does warm up beautifully. I'm just bringing it together, and I'm going to add the rest of that milk. And of course, for a Clootie dumpling, you have to have a cloot. And in the time of my granny, it was very easy to get these cloots, pure linen and made for the purpose. And nowadays you have to really hunt around for a slightly over large linen tea towel, because your average metric tea towel with all its bright colours is generally narrower than my granny's tea towels. And also, if you have very strong colours, you could end up with bits of blue and red on your Clootie dumpling. They don't want that either. So, so what we do now is we've got a lovely mix here. There it is. And we get the cloot ready. So what you want to do first of all is to blanch it with some really boiling water, which I have behind me here. I'll just pop it in my pan. The water is boiling. There we are. Just scald it. It's been cleaned, of course, but this is just so it's nice and moist. It would have been far more sensible to do this before I started, but not to worry. It does cool down pretty quickly. So just pop it there just now. Bring it over. You see it's steaming. So what we do is we're going to put this cloth, and it will cool down very quickly. It's definitely very hot. And we're going to cover it in a really good dose of flour, because the flour forms that skin around the Clootie dumpling. If you've ever had one, it's going to steam in this coating of flour, and some people cut off that floury skin. For others, it's a delicacy. In our house, it gets eaten, so no problem there, but sometimes people do cut it off. So here we are. Just pop it on the table, like so. And give it a very, very liberal covering of flour. The sieve, it's not about having lumpy flour, it's about distributing our flour, and it helps a lot if you do it in a sieve, otherwise it ends up in great clumps. So give it a really good shake all over. Shake it on. And just because you're not doing a Christmas pud doesn't mean to say the family can't stir the Clootie dumpling and make a wish. Make sure you really give it a good coating, as you can see here. One more, I think, just to cover up the bold bits, like so. There we are. Okay. Now, next, I have a pan here, I have a plate, and the plate is going to go in the bottom of the pan, ready to put the dumpling on. And now we take this guy and we pile it in the middle. This is a real favourite in our house, and there is nothing like a homemade Clootie dumpling. Now, the only thing that stops you doubling the recipe is the size of your pan and the size of your cloth. So I know this one fits this cloth and this pan, so just be aware of that. Now, have your string at the ready. Again, old-fashioned string. You don't want plastics or things that the dye will run. And what you can do now is you can use that to just give it a bit of a flip, you see, because you actually don't want all the flour to fall down there. You want it to cover your dumpling. So just give it a little flip, and that helps that. And then gather it up, get the four sides, and then the bits in the middle. And that looseness is important because your pudding expands, so it'll fill up this very nicely. Take a little bit from each corner here. There we are. And we have it. There's our Clootie dumpling. So the next thing to do is, I suggest you fold it over. So the first one is a loop, like so. There we are. Make sure you tuck in all those edges. And that way you can get a really good first purchase. Don't worry if it's slightly irregular shape. After all, it is organic. You know, it's a living being like a haggis, you know, so it doesn't matter if it's a slightly funny shape. And then tie it off in a knot. You can cut it off so you don't have to try and do it in a bow, just do it nice and tight. And this sits on your plate, which we can call a trivet, and it goes on the cooker along with boiling water. This has literally stopped whistling the moment before we came on air. And pour the boiling water around about halfway up the pudding, and then keep it about halfway up the pudding, so keep an eye on it. And it should have a lid, which it has somewhere, so imagine there's a lid on that. There we go. And that is our Clootie Dumpling in the oven. So I found the lid. So we've got the Clootie Dumpling simmering away on the simmering hob. So it'll just keep bubbling away and it'll carry on doing that all afternoon. So that's the Clootie Dumpling underway. And I'm going to now talk about geese. So we were up on Orkney, and there's the cuckoo joining in. And we were up on Orkney, and you know, it's fine if you want turkey, if you must, but you could have some lovely rare breed mutton, you could have a lovely bit of Scottish roast beef, or what we decided to do was to get some Greylag when we were up on Orkney, because Orkney and the Western Isles are having a real problem with these Greylags, because they come in their thousands and they either eat the crops or they guzzle the grass that's meant for silage, and of course they poo on it at the same time. So it's a double whammy when it comes to the lovely pastures. So they're allowed to shoot some of the geese, and we have a fridge in the car and we brought back 4. So we've got wild Greylag goose today, and we're going to have it with some lovely Shetland kale from the garden, really beautiful Shetland kale, and some Bramley apple, and half a red onion, and I'm just going to shred it up. This has had a good wash. It's going to be shredded up and put in a pan here behind me, and we'll start it going. So I've got a little bit of Supernature oil here. Got another bottle upstairs, I need it, but not today. So we'll pop a little drizzle in there just to get the onion started. The pan has been heating on the cooker. And we'll just make a start here with the onion first. Now this is something that if you have got some spring cabbage or some green cabbage from a local greengrocer, then you can knock this dish off in about 15 minutes. But if you've got some older kale that's in the garden at this time of year, or you've bought from an organic box or something like that, then I would give it longer. I would think of it more like a red cabbage and really stew it and give it a longer length of time. It doesn't come to any harm, and it's really delicious. So we'll cut off these bits here. As I say, this has already been washed. We keep these bits because we've got little bunny in the garden that visits. They're beautiful colour. I'm just going to take out the hard bit, and the rest will go in the pan. And the finer you shred it, the more you'll enjoy it. That's what I would say. So go for the shredding, or the chiffonade if you want to be posh, but it only means shredded cabbage. So while these onions are sizzling, we'll just give this a slice up. And of course you can make energy juices with kale as well. I mean, it's filled with fantastic nutrients, so it's one of these superfoods. And we'll just take this all and curl it up here. And it keeps its colour as well, which is wonderful. This is Shetland kale that we got from Mackenzie's farm shop. We got seeds posted down to us, and it grows beautifully in our garden here in Fife. But you can look out for other old kinds of cabbage, winter cabbages. They grow beautifully in our climate, and you can make stir fries with them. You can use them for dolmas, as we've done before, and there's no end to the possibilities. So I see using Scottish vegetables as a challenge to see how many different versatile ways I can use them. Now, this is going to go into the wok along with the sizzling onion. There we are. I'm going to do a kind of sweet and sour here. So we're going to add this Bramley apple. It'll give us a lovely juice. We hardly need to add any liquid whatsoever. Just use this one. And we're leaving on the skin. Absolutely no need to take off the skin. And these apple cores also go to the bunny. And once you've got the cores out, just chop it roughly, and it breaks down beautifully to give us a lovely appley sauce with the goose. Now, a wild goose isn't like buying one imported or a big fat goose that's very, very fatty. They talk about big fatty geese. They're pretty lean machines, you know, they're the Ferraris of geese. So you don't actually get an awful lot of fat, but you get a lovely dark, rich game colour. And I like a nice long, slow cooking. So I pot roast it in, you know, my orange lacrosse, something like that. And just pot roast it with a little bit of water and let it cook thoroughly through. Also because it's wild, you know, it's a good way of making sure that there's absolutely safe to eat and enjoyable to eat. I don't do goose pink. Sorry, chefs, I don't. Especially not wild geese, but any geese really, any poultry, I would cook it through thoroughly. But that's just me. So I can hear that sizzling away, which is good. And you can see that's very roughly chopped, that's all it needs. In it goes. With a tiny little bit of water, just so that it doesn't stick to the bottom, so that it's not, it will disappear, but it just means it's not going to burn or stick. Give it a stir here in the pan, coming along nicely. We'll add some salt and pepper. I've got some blackthorn salt today from Ayrshire. In it goes. Some black pepper. And I've also got some juniper. Now we picked this ourselves and it's rather lovely to use your own wild spices. So I'm going to add a couple of juniper berries, maybe 3. I rather love juniper. And they're going to get a nice little grind up. Here we are. And this little gizmo my lovely sister-in-law bought me. Pop them in. There we are. And that's my juniper ground up. In it goes. And we want that sweet and sour. So some lovely honey from Ardros Farm Shop just along the road. Lovely local honey. I mean, it's just, oh, gorgeous. So I'm going to add some of that. A little bit of sweet and sour going on here. There we are. Pop it in. Give it a wee help. In that goes. And then we also need a little bit of sour. And for our sour, we have got something very interesting hot off the shelves. We've got the Rosebery Estates vinegar. Now this is cider vinegar made by Ben Reid and his collaborators. And Ben has been collecting Madeira and sherry casks. And he's had this on the go for years. And he's just brought it out. So the aroma is gorgeous. So what better thing to do at Christmas than to treat yourself and to have some really beautiful vinegar. So it's a real crafted vinegar and made here in Scotland. So a little bit of that as well. If I'm being a bit mean, it's because I've only just opened the bottle. It'll be lovely to taste it. So that's that. Now I think that's everything in there. And what you can do if you want to, but I haven't done it today, is you can start the pan going with a little bit of goose fat or with a little bit of streaky bacon. But I've kept this one veggie today for no reason other than just what I had in the house, and it's lovely, it's colourful as you can see. It's really, really lovely. And that's just going to cook away now. As I say, if it's a spring cabbage, that'll be ready in 15 minutes. But if it's a red cabbage or an older Shetland kale, I would give it the benefit of 40 minutes at least. And it gets all the better for it. Put a lid on it. What you can do is cook it on the simmering one, just turn it down a little bit to medium, and it'll be lovely. Now, I've got another pan here on the back, And that is my gravy from my Greylag. So I had to do the Greylag in advance, and it's not the sort of thing where you have your one I made earlier. So it's slow roasted, and I stuff it with plums, and I have some apples around about it. And so what I've got here is the fantastic juices from the apples and the plums and the goose. And I haven't even skimmed that. It really is lovely as it is. And what I'm going to do now is give it a little bit of an extra luxury. After all, it's nearly Christmas. So I've got some of our own elderberry jelly. Just up the hill at the back of us, there's lots of elder bushes, and we can have flowers in May, deep fried in batter. If you don't have a deep fat fryer like us, we don't have one either. Just shallow fry them, it works beautifully. And then don't take all the flowers, because that's going to be your berries later in the year. And elderberry jelly is gorgeous. So I'm going to put a spoonful of jelly in here. In it goes. That will melt off on the spoon. And that there. And I'm also going to add a little slosh of spiced rum. Now this is also from the Orkneys, and Colin makes this lovely spiced rum. I've got a little bit to finish first. So I'm going to put a little bit of rum in here. A little slug of rum. Now this will go rather beautifully with these rum-soaked rowan berries that we're going to garnish the dish with. So we're getting definitely a bit festive here. And this is some corn flour, which we're just going to slake in a little water. And add that and bring it to the boil for wonderful plum and elderberry sauce. So with all the ingredients in, it was seasoned when I was cooking the goose, so I'm not adding any more seasoning just now, but I will taste it before I eat it. I'm going to pop that over there and give it a good melt now, and keep an eye on it so that it stirs and it comes through the boil as a lovely smooth sauce. So we're going to also serve our goose with the sweet and sour cabbage and roast potatoes and some baked apples. Now the baked apples, I'll just show you the last little segment here. So I've washed the outside, of course, and this is a Bramley again. And what I've got is one of my Sheffy melon ballers, but you can use a teaspoon quite easily, but the melon baller is a bit stronger. So if you've got a favourite teaspoon, you don't want to bend it. And what I'm doing is I'm just taking out that, and I'm going to put them in the oven. And they're going to bake very quickly, actually, because they're halved. And then I'm going to fill the cavity with some more of that elderberry jelly. It looks really pretty on the plate. And that's what my little dish is for. Can anybody see my little dish? Here it is. There we are. So he's going to go in the oven. The sauce is coming through to the boil. And we'll be back in a few minutes when it's ready. So here we have the Greylag goose. As you can see, I've taken the big breasts off the bone because it's much easier to carve. So the legs are here, and that's a huge breast that would feed at least 2 people. And here's one ready sliced. We've got some roast potatoes, some garden bay and parsley, and our lovely sweet and sour cabbage. And we're just going to finish off with some other little delicacies as well. So first of all, that beautiful gravy that we made. Remember, it's got the elderberry jelly in it and a little bit of the Orkney rum as well. And that's ready to go. So we're going to ladle some over, and the rest of course can go in a jug at the table. So we'll just glaze it. It has also the corn flour in it, so it gives it a lovely glaze. There we are. It's a lovely, lovely, delicious dish. This aroma is driving us mad. And we've got to give it some party fare as well, party clothing. So we've got some lovely rum-soaked rowan berries, again from just up on the cliff. So they've been cooked in a little bit of sugar, and I've brought to the boil just to make them a little bit tender but not fall apart. And then they've been sitting for a couple of months in rum. And so we'd just scatter these, which will go beautifully with the Greylag goose. Really, really delicious. And here we've got Scottish capers, also known as pickled nasturtium seeds. They are delicious, delicious on pizzas, and also delicious when you're wanting a little pickle with something like game. So here's our own homegrown nasturtium seeds. And last but not least, when you have game, it's rather nice to have crumbs. So these are our own sourdough bread crumbs, cooked with a little bit of butter, just to give a lovely texture on the top. And it's a treat. There we are. And that is our Christmas Greylag with pickled nasturtiums and rowan with rum, sweet and sour cabbage, roasties, or whatever you love with it. It's delicious. Here also is our Clootie Dumpling, ready out of the oven and finished with a little bit of castor or icing sugar, just to give it a little bit of snow on the top. But as you can see, it is beautifully light and fruity and really delicious. Absolutely gorgeous. And if you're wanting to have this the next day and the next day and the next day, just keep it in a cool place, and when you're wanting to eat it, wrap a couple of slices in foil, pop it in the oven, and it'll come up like new. Just don't let it dry out, wrap it in the foil and it comes out beautifully. Last but by no means least, you might have spotted the little gingerbreads, and we have a bit of a tradition in this house of homemade decorations, and these are called pepparkakor in Swedish, little gingerbread hearts, and they're quite thin and they are absolutely delicious. And the recipe for these is also on my website, scottishfoodguide.scot. And they're great fun to make with all the family. You can string them up around the room. We put them on the curtain poles. And the knack for getting the whole is that you must pierce them when they're still hot and soft. So I use the end of this little piping nozzle and just give it a prod when they're straight out of the oven, and then cool them on the baking tray so that they get nice and hard. Also, they are delicious to eat. They're totally edible. They're not like salt dough or something. But I do make sure that they're well fired, because when you're going to hang them up, you want them to look really toasted and not pasty faced. But I kid you not, come January, we eat them all. They're biscuits, they're fine. I wouldn't give them to the public, but the family devour them, I assure you. So do have a go at them. The recipe's on the website and they're really delicious. And here we are with the completed Greylag goose. I nearly forgot these apples that were baking in the oven. Thank goodness my husband reminded me. And they've also got the elderberry jelly inside them. So we've added the baked apples to the platter and the meal is complete. So festive greetings to you all. Have a safe and happy time. And we will see you next time. Thank you.